policy, and that's it. Why don't you go to Helen Clark and say, hey, when's the election date? Because then we'll all be able to...
You're saying that if Labor set an election date, you'll immediately release policy?
No, what I'm saying is we're going to release policy to our timetables, not to the media's timetable, and not to Helen Clark's. Now, Helen Clark can just tell us when the election is, and then we'll be able to say, okay, we'll count back from the election. This is when we'll be releasing stuff.
Why is that? Let's take the tax policy, which is probably the one that's the most interest to regular Kiwis.
Sure.
Although I have a show and I'm theoretically part of the media, I'm a regular Kiwi.
You'll be getting a tax break.
I'm a guy who's trying to go, should I vote for Labor or should I vote for National, right? And I vote on policy, not party.
Absolutely.
So the fact that John Key's a lovely guy and Helen Clark's an interesting woman mean nothing to me. I vote on policy. And at the moment, I have no ability to do that. I have some very basic things. So why aren't you telling me your tax policy?
Oh, look, the whole reason is because we don't know when the election is, and Labor is going to do their best to tear it to bits, to shoot it down, and to steal the best bits. So we're saying,
Labor have already released their policy on what they're going to do with tax cuts.
Well, they're the government. They had to do that in the budget.
But just to go by what you've said, Labor's already released it. You're saying that as soon as you release policy, Labor will attempt to tear it to bits. Yes. Isn't that what we want in a democracy? We want your policy torn to bits by people who will tell us, because you're going to release it and say it's wonderful, and I'm just a regular guy. I want people who are experts to go, well, here's the problems with it.
I tell you what, there'll be plenty of time to do that, but we don't even know when the election's going to be, do we?
Well,
do you know the date of it?
I don't. I'm betting it's November. I'm betting it's the very last possible moment that it can be.
Well, you see, I don't know that it will be. I don't know. We don't know. But as soon as we know, we will be able to have a timetable for rolling out our policy. And I can tell you, people will have plenty of time to assess the differences between National and Labor and to make an informed decision. And we're promising that.
What are the differences between National and Labor, do you think?
Oh, look, there's some big philosophical differences. I mean, basically, Labor's approach has been government knows best. We know how best to spend your money. We'll tell you what to do. Vote for us and we'll look after you. But you might not do that well, but, you know, we'll keep you safe. Our approach is, hey, look, we've got a lot of potential in New Zealand. We can really get this country going. Labor has wasted the best economic conditions in a generation. People know best how to spend their money. Let's really realise the potential of this country by giving people the opportunity to actually get the rewards for their hard work and to really give people an incentive to stay in New Zealand. Because at the moment, I can tell you, people are leaving this country, 80,000 in the last year. There are some major philosophical differences between the two parties. Labor is full of people who haven't had any experience beyond being a union official or a professional politician. National are people who have come from successful businesses, professions. It's a team that reflects a hell of a lot of talent.
Jerry Brownlee was a teacher.
Well, I tell you what, I wouldn't knock Jerry Brownlee. There's nothing wrong with teachers either.
Exactly.
And, you know, we think we've got a far better team to actually get the country going. We're not interested in the pursuit of power or holding power just for the sake of power like these guys in Labor are now. We're interested in building a country where your kids and your grandkids can stay here and actually earn a decent living and build a decent life. And that's the difference. We're looking forward, they're looking back right now.
So do you think National will be able to create policies and changes that will keep those 80,000 New Zealanders in New Zealand and stop them from leaving?
Yes, I think we can, basically. I think at the moment people have an overwhelming feeling that, look, they're being over-regulated, they're not getting reward for hard effort, and basically it's better on the other side of the ditch. And our number one priority is going to be to reverse that and keep people in New Zealand. We're losing too many of our young people.
I put the same question to John Key because two things. One, we're recently seeing that it's not actually that better off over the ditch. That if we look at the economic climate and everything, I mean, there was just one that came out today showing that that basically, you know, the cost of living is more expensive in Sydney, that the tax breaks, while they seem good, don't always work out.
They're not all going to Sydney. A lot of them are going to Western Australia and Brisbane.
Yeah, but don't you think that part of the reason that they're going overseas is just because it's a bigger population? That it's exciting. It's the same reason people leave.
Look, I tell you what.
It's the same reason people leave Perth to go to Melbourne. It's the same reason people leave Alabama to go to New York. It's the same people leave Dorset to go to London. Well, you go to where there's a bigger population and a more exciting things. We're always going to face that.
There's always going to be a lot of factors in why people leave countries. But you look at what happened in Ireland. I mean, that was a permanent a drain to the UK for years and years and years. Now people are going back to Ireland. You could say it's a similar situation in New Zealand vis-a-vis Australia. We've got to reverse that drain and get people coming back. So there's always going to be different factors why people leave a country to go to a bigger country, but there's no question that drain for economic reasons has definitely accelerated since 1999, and it's set to get worse. The last year, 80,000 people left. That is the worst figure ever. It's getting worse and worse. I was talking to a law student who does some part-time work for me today. She graduated, she went to a bar graduation class today, 4 out of 20 lawyers leaving immediately for Australia. All her friends are leaving. This is an increasing phenomenon. We've got to be able to keep people here and show people there's a reason to stay in New Zealand, because it's a great country, it's got great potential, but we're not realising that potential.
What do you think the government's done then to create this environment? What are the reasons people are leaving? Is it just low wages?
Oh, look, I think there's dissatisfaction on a wide variety of fronts. I mean, if you look at the things that people vote on, it's economic stuff, so people just haven't got enough money in their pocket to pay the bill, you know. It's law and order, people are feeling increasingly unsafe in their homes. It's healthcare, people want to be able to get into the local hospital when they need to, they can't. And it's education, and people are feeling, well, actually, we don't know if the education system is actually giving people the education they need to get on and, you know, do well in life. So it's a number of factors. Plus also I think it's a very arrogant government which is out of ideas, which is telling people how to, you know, run their own life. I mean, the latest thing is...
What do you mean about telling people to run their own life?
Well, look at this thing that came out 2 weeks ago. They're going to ban light bulbs. You know, they're going to tell you even what sort of light bulb to use in your house. They're going to tell you what your kids can eat at school. It's becoming increasingly restrictive, and I can tell you, because I get out and I meet a lot of ordinary New Zealanders every week, people, and I don't like this phrase myself, but people keep on saying to me, you've got to get rid of this PC rubbish. And that, you know, you get that all the time.
So you do get that all the time, but, but what does PC mean these days? I mean, do you really think, as a doctor, that it's bad that we're trying to make tuck shops and schools stop selling Coke and pies?
Well, look, we could have a long, long debate about this, but the reality...
Well, we've got half an hour.
Okay, well, I'll tell you about this stuff about food in schools. The reality is, if you go to schools in some of the better off areas in New Zealand, the kids aren't overweight. We're actually saying, look, the government should be targeting their efforts to those places where it's a problem and finding solutions which actually work. Now, if you go into South Auckland, where there are problems with obesity, and you just tell kids, hey, we're closing down the tuck shop, people go down the road and buy the stuff at the KFC or the dairy. So this blanket regulation doesn't work. You've got to actually change people's attitudes.
So you're talking about, and I find National Party does this a lot sometimes,
Yeah.
You're saying that right now,
Yes.
if I change my tuck shop from selling salt vinegar chips and Coke, you know, to selling filled rolls and orange juice, the kids are going to go down to the dairy. But you're forgetting that possibly in 5 years' time, they do right now, but what you're forgetting is that possibly in 5 years' time, as those kids who haven't been at the school when their tuck shop used to sell Coke and salt vinegar chips, they might start to establish a reality where they go, a filled roll is my lunch.
Not
and
unless
that
you can
slowly but
change
surely
family
begin to build
cultures
it.
and how people live in their homes. That's
But
the problem
can you
overall.
begin to change family culture by showing their kids what's good and healthy in schools?
Well, look,
because if they're not doing it at home,
no,
how else
but
do
the
we do it?
schools are showing what's good and healthy. You don't have to regulate it for it, Oliver. That's the thing. You don't have to actually impose stuff. It doesn't work when it's imposed. You get things changed by working with people. Like on the East Coast, Ngāti Porou done great stuff with their people down there because they know what people respond to. You've got to have local tailored solutions. You just can't come in and say, hey, we're banning this, that's over. People say, oh, well, you know, get stuffed, we're going to go our own way. You actually have to see what works. Now, I can tell you in my electorate, you go to Birkenhead, you go to the Northcote schools, kids aren't overweight. They don't need stuff banned. They're already on top of this because they have an approach that works for local people. So we're saying, hey, don't get government telling people how to live their lives. Find out a way to do stuff that actually works. And we've got a lot of different communities in New Zealand, and one size doesn't fit all.
Where do you stand on the anti-smacking bill?
Where do I stand on this anti-smacking bill? Well, you know, we have a range of different views within caucus, but at the end of the day, we reached a position where
I'm not asking about the National Party.
No,
I know
telling
that.
you what
I'm
the
asking
National Party
what you
view
think
is.
of it. Do you think that it's good that we repealed Section 59, which gives defence and smacking your kids?
Look, I can't see that bill being repealed, and I think people have moved on to the new reality. Personally, I don't smack my daughter, but she's only 9 months old, so you wouldn't expect that I would. But I think people just are moving with the new reality. Like, it's like when we, you know, there's a lot of fuss about banning smoking in restaurants. Now people are glad that's happened. So maybe it's an adjustment. People have to change their views.
Are you glad that there's no smoking in restaurants?
Yes, I am personally.
What about prostitute law reform? Are you glad that we now have, the prostitutes have the right to be people the same as their clients are?
Well, personally, I would have voted for that law. Yeah.
Because the point I'm trying to get to is that what we talk about being PC generally tends to be all of the things that you seem to think are quite good.
No. What I'm telling you, Oliver, is if you go and speak to regular ordinary New Zealanders out there, they are telling you that this government is too PC.
Because of the things like